that it hides your scalp. So what it has a layer there which looks like your scalp but isn't actually your scalp. I would recommend that you use this type of closure if you have got hair underneath and you also don't want to use any glue or anything like that on your piece. The second type is what we call a lace closure. Now, this is a lace closure. You see this example. It's different to the silk closure because what that's supposed to do is go exactly directly onto your scalp. It's very good if you do not have any hair in the area that you're placing your closure or you're placing your topper, especially if you want to be able to glue the front bit down. This would be the recommended option that you use. The third one is actually ultra strands. So you can actually have a topper base made from ultra strands. And in case you don't know what ultra strands looks like, it's got holes in it. And this is great if you're trying to add volume and you've already got hair, you've got fine hair, you don't want to have your hair covered with the closure, or you want to be able to pull your own hair through the holes. So those are the three types of closures that you can use. I am going to be using the lace base closure. So when I create the topper, I'm going to be using this type of a closure. The next thing that you're going to need is wefts. If you haven't already seen what a weft looks like, this is an example of a weft. Literally, it is hair that is sewn onto a string base. Now with the wefts, as you can see, it's quite bulky at the top and it's going to be very difficult for us to get our needles because we're going to be attaching our wefts onto our base using needles, and it's very difficult to get through that bulk. So what we do is what we call splitting the weft. And as you can see, most wefts have actually been glued together. And we're going to split this weft. So you would need a tool like this, which is essentially a splitter. You can easily find this in any sewing shops. We're gently going to split the weft in half. As you can see, I'm splitting the weft. You literally put it through, pull it out, and the weft should start to split. You want to make sure that you split your weft before you create your topper. Just makes it a lot more efficient. Also, the benefit of splitting the weft is that you don't end up with a bulky product. Sometimes you can have toppers and they're just too heavy. By splitting the weft, you get rid of that issue. So you go all the way through. As you can see, this weft has been split. You go all the way through your piece of weft until you end up with double the amount of weft that you had to start off with. The next tools that we're going to need is your pins, and this is going to be used to temporarily grip our items onto our base. And our base, this is what we're going to use as our base, and it's simply a mesh. You can get them in different colours, and what I would say is the darker you are going with your closure, the darker the base should be. And the darker you're going with your topper, the darker the base should be. But you can have all different colours of mesh, and you can easily get this at a fabric store. And you can order these online as well. And last but not least, you're going to need a needle. I tend to use curved needles like this because I find that they're much easier to use. And they're definitely much easier to thread as well. The other thing that is important is the size of the closure. Now, if you recall, in the last video, we created a template which was 6 inches by 6 inches, which is 6 inches front to back, 6 inches side to side. Now, what you need to have is 2 inches clear around the perimeter. That means that your closure needs to be small enough so that you've got 2 inches around the perimeter. So it's 2 inches at that side, 2 inches at the other side, and also 2 inches at the back. So in this case, the size of the closure will be 2 inches by 4 inches. That is 2 inches side to side, 4 inches front to back. That will give you 2 inches around the perimeter. In that 2-inch space, that's where we are going to be putting our wefts. Obviously, if you've got a larger piece, then you can either increase the size of your closure or you'll have more space for you to attach your wefts. You really only need the closure for your parting area, so you don't need a very large closure. So very quickly, I'm going to run again through all the things that you need to create your topper. First of all, you're going to need your template. Then you're going to need your needle. And then you're going to need your splitter for splitting the wefts. Then some thread, lots and lots of pins. You're going to need your mesh net and your weft of hair. And finally, you're going to choose between the type of closures, whether that's using a silk base, a lace base, or even ultra strands. Next video, we're actually going to be constructing the topper.